Yeah, hi, my name is Maria Luz Torre. I'm the organizer of Parent Voices, the San Francisco chapter, and I'm also the founding organizer of that organization in the city. So Parent Voices is a parent-led and run action group that advocates for access to quality childcare for all children in the city and the state. We also work nationwide with coalitions. But through the years, because it's been like 27 years, our mission has evolved to include actually addressing issues of racism, equity, broader social justice. But at the core of that is still access to affordable quality childcare for all children. Parent Voices started in 2006. I remember exactly the day I was hired, January 31, 1996. And then that same year, we went to the first ever Stand for Children in Washington, D.C. So we really felt like we were part of this big movement of people standing for children. I came here as a political asylum applicant. I actually became a mother here. My children were born here. Here I am with my law degree, but I couldn't go to work when I had children. So for 3 years, I was a stay-at-home mom. I was on the waiting list for childcare, but nobody called. There's just a long line of people waiting for childcare. So when our parish priest, Saint Boniface, we used to live in the Tenderloin, Father Louis, a Franciscan friar, he said, there's this group that's just starting and they are trying to organize parents. So I applied and I was accepted. And I found out that the focus of this group was advocacy for childcare. And I said, it's perfect. It's like, so that's when we started that organization from scratch, because that was also 2 years later, welfare reform happened. Actually, Bill Clinton signed welfare reform in 1996, I think December. Childcare was an afterthought. And the reason why parents cannot go to work, especially parents with young children, is because they do not have childcare. And so when they realized, like, we require parents to work, but yeah, they cannot go to work without childcare. So Parent Voices was created at the exact time when the voice for childcare was needed, especially for parents transitioning from welfare to work. And that's how we entered into that field of advocacy around early care and education. When I came here in the US, my background was environmental law in the Philippines, not organizing. Although the organization itself, Harbon Foundation, did some organizing in the field, I realized that organizing here in the States is so different than organizing in the Philippines. In the Philippines, you already have community. If you're a community organizer there, you stay with them, you immerse with them. Here, you have to gather the community. And since I'm organizing a sector that are kind of like all over the city, I have to recruit the parents from nothing. I have to start with a group of like 10 parents, meet monthly, and then expand that. And the toughest group to organize is BC parents raising young children. So I was a greenhorn organizer, but I joined a group called Parent Advocates with Coleman Advocates. And they were already doing the advocacy around issues with young children, but broader than childcare here in the city. And I became parent advocate for youth, and I learned how they were doing their advocacy, their organizing, and that's how I kind of learned the hard way how to do organizing here in the States. So I was sent here in the US in 1992 as an exchange visitor to do an environmental policy tour. The way environmental organizing is done here is kind of sanitized. In the Philippines, it's very related to social justice. So like there are people living in the forest. Here we say you cannot touch that forest, but when people have lived there for centuries, you have to recognize the right to be there. So we have to tell our funders like World Wildlife Fund and other partners that we were also funded through Debt for Nature Swap, that environmental law in the Philippines must include people. You cannot separate it, especially people who are using these resources for hundreds of years and living in the forest. So that's incorporated there. And in the Philippines, we do a lot of coalition work. We work with other sectors, like we work with urban sectors, we work with student groups, we work with people working in fishing communities. And did I say students? Yeah, we worked with a lot of students because I was a student activist too. So coming here, I realized the value also of coalition work. That's why we work with SOMCAN and the group that Angelica is part of. So coalition work is very, very important because you cannot fight it alone. Otherwise, you will be like conflicting with each other, or there's this turf wars, and we learned that in the Philippines, turf wars, like we want to be funded, not you, us. But if we work together and fight for a common identified goal, because the people affected by all these different issues are the same families, then we're more effective and we're actually more powerful that way. Yeah, power in numbers. So the challenge of working with families with young children is the children grow up and the parents move on. So you have to keep recruiting the parents. But we found a way to make sure that our parents whose children have grown up still engage with the organization. That's why we've expanded our scope to beyond childcare. That's why we've included issues of immigration, racism, all of that. But the biggest challenge really is you need to keep recruiting because children only stay little for like 5 years. Yeah. Our focus is really early childcare, although childcare is covered from 0 to 12. The early childhood is really 0 to 5. And one of the challenges for a long time to another challenge in our advocacy is the funding, because childcare is not cheap. So for many years, we were fighting for crumbs and kind of competing with other social services. You compete with housing, you compete with healthcare, you compete with education. So we said we need a new source of revenue. And I've been saying that forever. So when we put baby Prop C in the ballot in 2018, we said, this is it. If we win this, it's gonna, the goal was to provide universal care in San Francisco, and we're so lucky. This year, there was a deficit. We could barely spend all that money, not because there's nowhere to spend it on, but because it was held in the courts. But anyway, the city wanted to use that money for other things. So that was one of our other fights, is we have to speak for the children and say, no, this is a set aside for children, for early care and education. And those babies cannot speak. Their parents can, but they can't. So that's why we have to make sure that even though we won this in the courts, we won this in the ballots, we still have to convince City Hall to protect it, to honor the wishes of the voters. So when I first arrived in the States, and then had my firstborn, like within a year of that, I really felt isolated. There was no neighbor, there was no auntie, there was nobody. Even the people next door in the apartment, you share a hallway and you don't know each other. There was no community, there was no network of support. So that was a culture shock. And I learned the hard way, like, wow, how can, when I came to the US, I imagined it to be like this bastion of democracy, of plenty. You can work and then you can buy a house, buy a car. That didn't happen that way. Many of the first parents I actually recruited were also Filipino moms. And so we kind of had that idea of really finding that community, that sense of family that we didn't have here. So in organizing, and it's actually basic in organizing, that you build relationships among people, which is missing in a big, small city. San Francisco is a small city, but it's still considered a big city in terms of isolation and not being disconnected from other parts of the city. So as a community organizer, my goal is really to build a relationship among the parents I recruit, and not only among the parents, but also among our target, like people at City Hall. Before we can confront them, we have to make sure that they know us. Like sometimes you accomplish more when you build relationships, and part of organizing is really building that relationship, getting them to know us as we know them. My wish list, we have the money. We wish that the city honor the will of the voters. Baby Prop C created a dedicated source of funding for childcare. Let's not keep dipping into it and using it for other purposes, because our children really cannot fight for themselves. It's up to us. And we promise families that we will have universal childcare, and we can do it. But it will not just happen just because the money is there. We always thought it's like, our money problem is solved. Childcare will be there. But there's a lot of pieces that needs to happen. Like, who will do the childcare? Does the city have to limit where this money goes? We have family childcare. And there are families who need evening and hour care. There are no licensed care during those hours. Many of our low-income families work in the service industry, in the hotels, in the restaurants. No childcare. So although we have a lot of childcare in the city and we have the funding to do it, we cannot use that money to help these other children, these other families, because they don't feel the mold that's defined as quality childcare. So I think we need to open minds. We need to have people redefine what quality really means. That quality is not just about people who went to college. There are providers who've been doing care for like 20 years, who love children, who care for children. I believe that children learn in different settings, and we have to understand that and hear the voices of the parents. How do they define quality? Because quality is not just defined in the books. My quality childcare could be my mom taking care of my children, but my mom also needs money to support herself. So we need to honor those choices. We need to honor family choices. We need to understand those family choices to match the needs of every family and culture. We have been in touch with many of these families since we've been doing Parent Voices for 27 years. Our host agency, Children's Council, actually tried to locate children who got childcare, and some of our Parent Voice kids have graduated at UC Berkeley, UC Santa Cruz, UC Santa Barbara, and we actually did their stories. When children get quality childcare, you can predict a better future for them. Actually, quality childcare is actually one of the things that breaks down the walls of poverty. Because when children are taken care of at a very young age, it sets a good foundation for them. And so, yes, we have followed some of these children, not everyone, because we only have resources to follow up some of them. And it's amazing where they went to. If we take care of our children, they will take care of us in the future. They will be our future doctors, our future teachers, our future janitors. I mean, it's like whatever they choose to be, we need everybody in the community to do what they need to do. And we want them to be people who understand peace. And this may sound corny, but love. Because that's really at the core of our humanity. I mean, it's like we need to care for each other. My approach, like, let's look at the way I raised my children. So I grew up in a big family. I have 10 siblings. I'm fourth in 11 brothers and sisters. I only have 2 children, and so my sister still lives here in the Bay Area. So we make sure that her kids and my kids go together. My mom used to do my part-time care. But when it comes to the organizing and talking to other parents, my thinking is always these families are disconnected. So we do our advocacy, that's work, and then we do fun stuff too with the kids. One thing that we didn't plan on doing with Parent Voices is that what happens with the children. So these children and the parents end up becoming friends for life. I can attest to that because I've been doing this for 27 years. We now have second generation Parent Voices children. The children when I started are now parents themselves. And so that community lives on. And I'm proud to say that our chapter has really provided a continuity for our families. It's not an easy thing to do because people move out of the city. It's expensive, but people keep in touch. I want to share one incident. One of our parents during the dot-com bust was bought out by her landlord. The landlord said, "Here's $10,000. We need this house." So she moved to Atlanta. She's a makeup artist, and then she was able to buy a place there. And years later, she called me. It's like, "Maria, I want you to meet Jericho. She works like a few blocks from your office." I said, "Okay." So I want to see this kid. I knew this kid when he was like that little. He was 2 years old. And now he was like 6'2". And then a few months later, she passed away. So Jericho had nobody. I don't know if I should say his name. But anyways, the mom passed away. I met her in December. She came from Mexico. She also moved to Mexico like years later. And Jericho had no place to stay. So he stayed with us for like 5 months. And so that's kind of like being family, because I know this child from when he was little, although I haven't seen him in a while, like your relatives should not see it, but that connection is always there. And our children growing up in Parent Voices, although we don't teach them directly, they just hang out with their parents. These are children who observe their parents being active in the community, being engaged. And even in their school projects, you can see that these children learn from what they see their parents doing. And I think we're creating the next generation of children who understand what democracy is and being engaged. And that, to me, is very, very valuable in our community organizing work. To all the parents who are struggling with young children, especially in San Francisco, there are resources. We have the Department of Early Childhood. They really want to hear from you. There's Parent Voices, our organization, who wants you to be part of our group. And then there's Children's Council that has been around for 50 years and also have their doors open. So do not be shy. These resources exist to serve parents, to serve you. So pick up that phone, Google it, DuckDuckGo, whatever you use, but these resources are there waiting for you. We put money in this. San Francisco put money in this. And we are proud as a city of actually investing in our children. I felt that isolation when I was a parent with young children. I couldn't go to work. I did not know anybody. But there are other parents like you in similar situation, and we have a common bond with all these parents. We're all raising young children. We all love our children. We all share the same value. We have this vision of what we want our children to be. So connect. There's social media. You can also see Parent Voices is also a social media page. Children's Council does. The Department of Early Childhood does. Department of Children, Youth, and Their Families does. And it's like, it's there. And they're actually, people may not know this. The ordinary person on the street may not know this, but these departments are actually sensitive to what people are saying, but they need to hear it in the right places. You don't just like write it on your page because only you will see it. Call them or join an organized group, because our voices united is more powerful than just your single voice. Yeah, we need to unite. the beacon that's keeping me moving forward are actually the families. People who knew me from a long time ago and then see me still doing the same thing would tell me, it's like, Maria, you're still with Parent Voices? I said, why? What's wrong with doing what? Something that I believe in, something that I love. There's actually, like you said, it's not always been ups and downs. During the recession, I was cut back to like 60% pay, doing full-time work. And that was a struggle because my daughter was in college at the time. So it's very difficult to send a kid to college with a part-time pay. But somehow we managed it, and somehow I stayed with Parent Voices only because I believed in what we were doing. And it's like the family that I couldn't leave behind. I think it's like I'm overly passionate about, I really believe in the cause. They call me the dinosaur Parent Voices because I'm the oldest living thing in the organization. All the organizations that I started with have left. I'm the original, I'm the only original one left in the group. And yeah, I love the work because I believe in it. And I think I may have the founder syndrome. And you know, when you started something from scratch, really understanding what it is you're trying to do, it's hard to like move on and do other things. I mean, I could have moved in become a lawyer, practice law, and get paid triple, double. I have classmates who practice here. But somehow I just couldn't do it. I don't know. I think I'll retire doing this work.
What do you love about it?
Well, I have to be honest. It's the flexibility. It's the flexibility of deciding with the families what we're gonna do, what we're gonna fight for. It's working with these families, the children. It's like, how can I say no to these cute little children? Oh, you should see the children in my group. And just, there's no judgment. There's no, and of course, our successes. Like when we were at our lowest after the recession, and then we worked for Baby Prop C, it was like you have all these little successes, and then you have a big success, and it's like that's what it is. It's like believing in it and creating those successes that kind of fuels you and fuels the people working with you. The parents are volunteers, like